Hello everyone, Storm 101 here. Today we'll be having an update on a very active pattern for severe weather over parts of the Southern Plains, in the parts of Mississippi River Valley, even in the parts of the Ohio Valley and Tennessee Valley over the next several days. Before we get started this video, if you guys like weather-related content, you can subscribe to my channel. We do this stuff here all the time on this channel. Plus, we'll have more updates on these upcoming severe weather setups over the next couple of days, so definitely stay tuned for more updates as well. Before we get started with the watch warning advisory display, there is actually severe weather ongoing out there. There's two different areas. There's one area over parts of Virginia and the parts of the Carolinas, and that pinkish box there in this area right here, northern North Carolina and southern Virginia, that is a severe thunderstorm watch that's in effect over some of those areas. Conditions will be favorable for hail, damaged winds, maybe a brief spin up tornado out there as well. And as we go back farther back to the west, there's another severe thunderstorm watch for parts of northeastern New Mexico, the Texas Panhandle, the Oklahoma Panhandle, and southeastern Colorado. And in this yellow box here, farther to the south in the southwestern part of Texas, that is a tornado watch. There's even a tornado warning ongoing out there as well. That's what that little red box is in the southwest central part of Texas as well. That's where we have multiple supercells ongoing out there as well. Meanwhile, for the rest of the country, mostly quiet. These are the storm reports. Let's actually start off with yesterday here. So these are the storm reports from yesterday, at least so far anyway. 7 tornadoes in total, 23 wind reports, one of those was significant, and 43 hail reports, one of those was significant as well. So we see more hail out there than wind and tornadoes combined, which is pretty interesting out there. So yeah, yesterday was a pretty decent day overall, decent amount of activity. Now so far today, we expect these numbers here to increase as the day goes on, even into tomorrow as well. 29 hail reports, 5 of those were significant, and 3 wind reports so far. So we've seen more hail than anything else so far today, and so far no tornado reports so far today, which hopefully it stays that way anyway. Here's the Spc Outlook here for today. Got 2 different risk areas. We got one farther to the east over parts of southern Virginia and northern North Carolina. That is a slight risk area. You got that march risk for some of the surrounding areas. And back further to the west, we have an enhanced risk over western Texas and far eastern New Mexico. And you get that slight risk for some of the surrounding areas. There's a 5% tornado risk. There's actually multiple tornado risk out there. You got a 5% tornado risk in the parts of western Texas, even parts of central Texas as well. And far eastern New Mexico, there's 2 different 2% risk areas. Far to the east, you got one over southern Virginia and northern North Carolina, and far northeastern Tennessee. And there's another 2% area for eastern Ohio and western Pennsylvania as well. Damage winds will be possible, but the main threat in that enhanced risk area is going to be hail, and some of it could be large, very large, as well. That's where the hatched area comes in. Day 2, which is tomorrow, we're getting enhanced risk for severe weather for central and parts of central and northern Oklahoma into southeastern Kansas, into southwestern Missouri. Tomorrow is definitely looking like a pretty decent day overall. There is a 10% hatched area, which indicates for the possibility for some strong tornadoes out there. Damage winds will be possible, especially across southeastern Kansas and southwestern Missouri. But there could also be the potential for some hail, and some of it could be very large out there as well. There's even a margin risk for the southern part of Idaho, which is pretty interesting, I gotta say. Then on day 3, which is Tuesday, got a slight risk for severe weather for the western half of Kentucky and southern Indiana. There's a possibility for some more supercells for some of those areas on Tuesday as well. Then on day 4, which is Wednesday, there's an enhanced risk for severe weather for central and south central Oklahoma into parts of northern Texas. And that 50% risk area does extend as far south as central Texas. This could be another significant day for parts of Oklahoma and Texas. Then on day 5, which is Thursday, got a slight risk for severe weather for northeastern Texas, southeastern Oklahoma, northwestern Louisiana, Most of Arkansas, southeastern Missouri, far western Tennessee, and also far northwestern Mississippi as well, and even for far southern Illinois as well. 6, 7, and 8 are predictably too low, but that could change over the next couple of days. Let's check out the current environment out in parts of Texas and New Mexico, and you can see there's plenty of instability out there. We also got radar on there at the same time. And you can see here, we got multiple supercells going on out there, even down to parts of Mexico, or dealing with supercells. And really the main threat of these are going to be large hail. If we actually check out Mixed Layer Cape, there's a decent amount of Mixed Layer Cape, especially as you get farther to the south as well, where you got values that are at least 2,000 joules per kilogram with that Mixed Layer Cape. Downdraft Cape is pretty darn elevated out there, well over 1,000 for most areas. Mid-level lap rates, it's on the higher end. Low-level lap rates are also pretty strong out there as well, especially as you get into the Texas Panhandle. I mean, it's high as a 9.5. That's a very strong low-level lap rates that is going on out there. And probably one of the limiting factors for today is wind shear. Now, bulk shear is stronger. However, story to Felicity is a different story. Story to Felicity is actually on the weaker side of things. It's generally about right around 100, which isn't really favorable for severe weather. But there are areas of a little bit above 200 in some places. And here's story to Felicity at a different level here. You can see here similar story out there. And then from the surface to 500 meters, you can see there, not much story to Felicity out there, and I think that's going to help limit the tornado risk, but it could certainly increase as we get deeper to the overnight hours as well, and that's going to lead to more clustering for some of these thunderstorms as well. Here's a Herbal in about a couple more hours or so later this evening, in other words. You can see there are supercells ongoing across western Texas, even up in the parts of Colorado and Kansas is a possibility up there as well. You'll see how some of these thunderstorms do begin to cluster up. And you notice here they do move through parts of Oklahoma. There's even a pretty intense cluster there moving through Oklahoma by the morning hours on Monday, or tomorrow morning, I should say. And that's going to lead to some uncertainty for the next severe weather setup tomorrow, which is also going to be happening over Oklahoma as well, which if we check out the 18Z HER model run, you can see right around the same time here, it does change from time to time by each run here, but you can see here from the 18Z run, it still shows some morning convection out there, and that could potentially be our limiting factor. And I think that's why the enhanced, it's not a very high risk. It's definitely a very high ceiling type of event, because if morning convection sticks around a little bit longer than expected, you may not see as much instability. But if it gets out here quicker, we can see supercells that develop, and some of them can cluster up to big-time cluster thunderstorms out there as well. And I will say that the HERMO is likely going to be underestimating the convection coverage. I'll definitely say that because most don't show a cap or a whole lot of dry air in the low levels across Oklahoma tomorrow. That's a big game changer, because the previous severe weather events of what we've seen in the plains, you always had that capping issue, or one of those if type of things. But this time, we don't have a cap out there. And that's going to lead to lots of convection out there, especially later in the day as well. If we check out significant parameters from the herd model, and yeah, those are some high numbers out there, folks. I mean, over a 1, conditions are favorable for tornadoes, but if it's over a 2, those conditions can be favorable for stronger tornadoes. We got numbers that's high as a 9 or a 10 out there. I mean, those are some pretty significant numbers out there, especially for, I mean, that's high for really anywhere across the U.S. I mean, that's a pretty high number regardless. But anyway, if we get a sounding in Central Oklahoma, you check out these soundings here. I mean, there's something else. Let's go over some of the ingredients here with the sounding here. You got wind direction of height. At the surface, it's almost about due south, a little bit southeast. But you get up to 850 millibars, it's from the southwest, and you get up to 700 millibars, it's about due west. So that's a pretty good wind direction of height. So that could lead to some rotating updrafts. Then you have a nice hodograph. Look how much instability is out there. Surface-based CAPE is 4,800. That's pretty high for this time of year. Um, Downdraft CAPE is up as high as 1,300. Lap rates is on the stronger side. Starting weight to velocity values are on the higher end, generally anywhere from about 400 to maybe close to 600 in some places. And like I was saying earlier, look at this. There's not a cap in place. There's also not much dry air in the low levels. Plus, there's a dew point of a 72 out there. So it will feel very muggy out there. So really, this is a loaded gun sounding overall here from the HER model. If this is correct, you're talking about the potential for damage to wind. Some of it could be significant. Large hail, some of it could be very large. However, I will say that the wind shear, there's a lot of wind shear out there, which may help limit the significant hail size. Anyway, I think there could still be significant hail, but the potential for like larger to baseballs or grapefruit size hail, I think it's going to help limit that because if we did not have as much wind shear out there, you could potentially see hail of grapefruit because of how much CAPE is out there. But with a stronger wind shear type of environment, that's going to help limit the very large hail potential. But the large hail threat will still be there regardless. And there's also that possibility for tornadoes, and some of those could be strong in long track as well. I mean, this is a, a load gun sounding here for Central Oklahoma, and this is a significant uptrend from its previous runs as well. You can see here how some of those significant numbers really stick around throughout most of the evening, but as you get into the overnight hours, you got numbers only as high as a 1 out there. So they really back off very quickly out there as well. But it is definitely something to really keep an eye on over the next several model runs because this could turn out to be quite a significant event, especially for Oklahoma. It's not just going to be Oklahoma, and it could potentially get as far north or far south as northern Texas, and it could get as far north as southern Kansas, even the parts of Missouri and Arkansas tomorrow. So this is definitely something we really need to monitor over the next several model runs because the potential is definitely there that we could see a significant severe weather event, and it can be a tornado outbreak as well. So we cannot rule out a potential tornado outbreak, especially if the environment is going to be that way. But then again, there's still that possibility that that morning convection could stick around a little bit longer than expected and keep some of those instability values on the lower end. So hopefully it trends towards that way and not having much convection in the morning or not much of clearing in the morning as well. So definitely something to really keep an eye on over the next several hours. Then the severe weather risk does move further to the east, eventually moves into parts of the Ohio Valley by Tuesday. And this is going to be another day we also need to watch carefully as well. Now, I will say the low pressure system itself will be weakening as it continues to move off to the east, which kind of leans to less forcing out there. What I mean by forcing, not as much lift out there, which can limit shower and thunderstorm development. But you still have that similar scenario out there. By Tuesday morning, there's going to be a round of convection that runs through some of these areas as well, which those will be the remains of the storms back in the parts of Kansas and Oklahoma by the previous day. So there's also that uncertainty you got there. But if it moves out here quick enough or quicker, we could see a decent amount of instability out there, which this is the highest name with superset composite parameters. You can see here, there are some elevated numbers out there. It's generally anywhere from about 3 to maybe as high as a 5 in some places. And that's just a general number out there. You can see here, it's over a pretty large area too. It includes eastern Illinois, the southern half of Indiana, most of Ohio, most of Kentucky, even the parts of West Virginia as well. There's some decent numbers as you get back into parts of Arkansas as well, but really the area I'm really monitoring very closely here will be over parts of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. That's where we have the possibility for some supercells that can also produce all hazards. Thankfully, it won't be as significant as what Oklahoma could be seeing tomorrow. But let's get a couple of soundings out there. We'll do one sounding per state, which this one will be in central Kentucky, if it could load in for us. Here we'll wait on it for a little bit. But you, but you can also see here, then again, pretty decent values as you get into eastern Illinois as well. Okay, it has loaded. You see here over central Kentucky, pretty decent sounding overall. Photograph looks good. Wind direction of height is all right. From the surface standpoint, it's kind of from the southwest, but you get up to 700 millibars, it's almost due west. So there is some wind direction of height going on there. There's also some dry air going on the surface, which can help increase the damage wind risk out there. Pointing of instability out there. Surface base is up to 2400. Mixed area cape is much lower at 1300, but that could still be favorable for severe weather. Downdraft cape is almost to 1100. Lap rates are kind of on the weaker side, except for the low level lap rates. Low level lap rates will be on the strong side, which can also help increase the damage wind risk, especially if any storm does cluster up. And there will be a decent amount of wind shear to work with, too. Um, could be up as high as close to 300. So really, overall here from the sound here, conditions could be favorable for maybe some small hail, damage winds, and there could be some isolatorious out there as well. And that possibility could be there for some supercells out there as well. Let's get another sounding. Let's go into the eastern part of Illinois and see what sounding it shows off out there. The Hermal doesn't get as far out as Tuesday just yet. It will be, I think, later tonight, but we'll have a better idea of Tuesday's setup here tomorrow, especially when the Hermal gets range. So this is Eastern Illinois. More instability to work with. Surface base is up to as high as 3,000. Mixed layer is 2,200. Downdraft cape is up to as high as 800, so that would be favorable for severe weather. Lap rates, though, is on the strong side, too, especially mid-level lap rates. That could help support a large hail threat. Wind shear values are still pretty decent out there as well. It's not terribly strong, but it's also not too weak. It will be just strong enough to support some severe weather. And there's also a decent hodograph out there as well. So given by the sounding here, conditions could be favorable for damaged winds. Could be some large hail with some storms, and the possibility for a brief spin-up tornado or two. Wind shear in this environment here is slightly weaker than the one in central Kentucky. Then we'll go to central Indiana, and our last place we'll look at is southern Ohio. Give this thing here a second to load in. Let's go and pull up a sounding from Ohio real quick too. Okay, so this is in if I'm correct, yeah, Indiana. You can see here, not as much wind shear going on out here, but it'll be just enough to support some severe weather out there, especially for some strong storms out there as well. Decent hodograph out there. A little bit of wind direction of high too. There's also plenty of instability, and also middle of lap rates will be on the stronger side. That's going to help increase that hail threat as well. So really, by giving the sounding here, conditions could be favorable for some damaged winds, some hail, maybe a brief spin up tornado or two out there as well. And then you look into parts of Ohio where wind shear values will be a little bit higher, so you kind of get a little bit further to the east. You can see here some better wind shear values out there. Plenty of instability to work with. Low-level lap rates is on the strong side, but mid-level lap rates are not very impressive out there. Downdraft cape is up as high as 907, and there's a decent hodograph out there as well. So really, given by the sounding here, conditions could be favorable for damage and winds. Could be some hail, and maybe some isolated tornadoes out there as well. So really, overall, we really need to keep an eye on these areas here closely here. I'm interested to see whenever the Hermal gets a range for Tuesday as well later tonight. There could be another significant risk for severe weather over some of the same areas again, over parts of Oklahoma and northern Texas by Wednesday. And this is the NAM model. And the supercell composite parameters do support the potential for supercells out there. So if we do get a sounding in central Oklahoma, out there, and while that loads, let's check out some other ingredients out here. Like, let's check out the low level jet out there, 850 millibar winds. And you know what? You got a pretty decent low level jet out there. Generally 40 to 50 knots out there. That'll be favorable for some severe weather. To the surface, dew point values out there will certainly be pretty elevated, mid to upper 60 dew points. That will help increase the severe weather risk. Surface-based cape here. Now, it does show some slight capping out there. There is some cyanide out there, but it does have some of its weak points out there as well, and that's where convection could potentially develop. But instability values are generally between 2,500 to 3,500, which could help support the risk for severe weather. Mid-level lap rates is going to be on the strong side. You can see there are some values up as high as a 9. That's pretty impressive. Low-level lap rates are not very impressive out there, but that's just to be expected as you get deeper to the overnight hours. And let's check out that sounding in central Oklahoma. Then again, on the sounding here, it suggests no cap out there. And it's also a pretty moist sounding as well. And what I mean by that is that the green line, which is your dew point line, and the temperature line, which is your red line, is close together. And in case there's a lot of moisture in this column in the atmosphere, that could lead to some widespread convection issues. So we do need to keep an eye on that, see how much dry air could be in this top environment, which there's still plenty of time for changes. If we check out some of the other ingredients, the hodograph looks good. There is one directional of height. Cape looks pretty good. Mixed layer cape is up as high as 3,600, which is pretty high. Downdraft cape is about 1,000. Mid-level lap rates is strong. Storing duplicity values on the higher end as well. So really, given by all these ingredients here, conditions could be favorable for damaging winds, large hail. Some of it could be significant given by some of those elevated instability values, and tornadoes. Some of those do have the potential to be strong as well. We got pretty elevated storing duplicity values out there as well. So really for Oklahoma and parts of northern Texas by Wednesday, this could be another potential significant severe weather setup for you guys as well. So really after tomorrow's severe weather setup, you guys are definitely not done for severe weather just yet. And it moves further to the east by Thursday. We'll check out the GFS model. This is surface-based cape. You got plenty of visibility out there stretching from southern Texas, and it goes through parts of Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, western Tennessee, up into the lower Ohio Valley region. Let's move this thing here to the other side here. If we check out some of the other ingredients like the low-level jet will be stronger as you go farther up north, especially up in the parts of the lower Ohio Valley. Those guys up there will see the strongest of low-level jet, which will help increase those wind shear values up there. Dew point values will certainly be pretty elevated. I mean, check out them low 70 dew point values out there. I mean, eastern Texas, northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas, western Mississippi. Dew point values up to as high as a 75. That is a very muggy air mass out there. So, wow, that's pretty impressive. And if we check out mid-level lap rates out there, there's some pretty good mid-level lap rates, especially far up north as well. Generally between 7.5 and 8.5 looks pretty good. Low-level lap rates, definitely some pretty elevated numbers out there as well. If we check out the supercell composite, you can see there are some elevated numbers out there, especially across parts of Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi. Got some pretty elevated numbers out there. It's a little bit too early to talk about soundings here, but from what I could tell from this environment here, conditions could be favorable for all hazards. That includes the threat for large hail, damaged winds, even some isolated tornadoes as well. We'll definitely have a better idea on Thursday whenever more models get in range. And models still indicate there could be more severe weather setups still to come, even after the setup here as well, as you kind of get into early next week. So, yeah, severe weather is definitely looking to be very active over the next several days here. But anyways, guys, that's all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you do like my channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put the comment section down below. Answer you guys questions. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye and have a good day.